From his first 4 small crops, he was the #2 sire in North America and Europe on apex figures, splitting Galileo and Warfront. He just looks the part. He exudes class. He looks like Northern Dancer. I mean, it's impossible to get better than that. When you know a horse is this good, you have to be able to push the chips out on the table and to play that hand. He's a superstar.
Hi everybody and welcome to Spa Babies, presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm. I'm Dan Illman along with Nicole Russo, and let's take a look at the field for Friday's Spa Baby race. We will kick off the 50-cent late pick 5 with race number 6. 5.5 furlongs on the turf for 2-year-old fillies. This is a maiden special weight. Our friends at Spendthrift, their stalwart stallion Into Mischief, represented by the number 2, She's Into Me. And on the also eligible list, the 15 Palace Avenger is by the Spendthrift stallion Palace. This is a really fascinating race, Nicole. The way I'm looking at this is rain, rain, go away. I want to see these horses compete on turf because there are some gigantic pedigrees.
Definitely. There are a ton of very classy turf pedigrees in this race, but as we'll get into, some of them are, really classic sort of pedigrees where the horses might want to go longer in the future. So I think that'll make for an interesting pedigree mix on the turf here as well. Well,
let's start things off with the number 1, Leave You With a Smile. This is jockey Ricardo Santana Jr.'s second call. Leave You With a Smile is from the first crop of Conveyance, who won the Southwest Stakes on dirt, the San Rafael Stakes on synthetic, but being a son of Indian Charlie gives him at least the possibility of being a hidden turf stallion.
I certainly think so, and freshman sire Conveyance, standing at Buck Pond Farm, is really a horse that I believe in a little bit. He's by Indian Charlie, whose, sons at stud obviously include Uncle Mo. It's a terrific, athletic, multi-purpose sire line. Conveyance is out of a mare by Holy Bull, who was really an underrated broodmare sire. I think Conveyance shows some of the best physical qualities of both those sire lines. He's thrown some nice physicals himself from what I've seen of his early foals. The Englehart barn can really hit with these first-time starters. They're on fire right now. And I think if Ricardo Santana were to stay aboard, this horse would be really interesting at a price.
And that August the 2nd workout went with company with an older mare, a nice turf horse named Passport to Victory, who earned a 77 Beyer top in her career on the turf. You want to check out Mike Welsh's Clocker Report for all of the latest workout information on these 2-year-old fillies. Leave You With a Smile. Do you think there's a little bit too much dirt on the bottom of this pedigree, though? I just don't see a lot of grass underneath.
I do think there's quite a bit of dirt in the pedigree, but, again, the Englehart barn, I think they might know what they have. They're really placing these two-year-olds well this summer.
Now, a horse that certainly has turf pedigree is the 2, She's Into Me, by Spendthrift stallion Into Mischief, who does everything right. 16% with juvenile debut runners, 13% with first-time turf runners. The dam's a half-sister to Meal Tick, who was grade 2 stakes place earlier this year on the turf. The second dam was stakes placed on a synthetic surface. And Jorge Abreu is a very underrated trainer, former assistant to Chad Brown. This horse is working well and attracts Jose Ortiz.
Yeah, Jose Ortiz up for the first start, and this one has worked and worked well on turf. I like when 2-year-olds have had the chance to work on turf before making a turf debut. And Into Mischief, a leading juvenile sire, leading general sire right now actually as well. And we think of him more as a dirt stallion, but he can get you a turf horse. Think of Vijack, who was a graded winner on both surfaces. And Into Mischief also just sired a Louisiana Cup turf winner last weekend, in that big weekend that put him atop the general sire list.
The number 3, Love of My Heart, is by Colonel John, who can certainly get a turf runner. This was a $20,000 yearling buyback and the first foal out of a dam that was placed routing on synthetic. I look at this pedigree and I see a lot of dirt, and I see a lot of routability, so maybe Love of My Heart's going to need more distance down the road. But I got to look at this horse's workout on July the 28th on the turf, and Mark Casse had enough confidence in this filly to work her in company with March to the Arch, who is an older colt that has a 98 Beyer on turf, a legitimate stakes horse. That piqued my interest. I wonder if Love of My Heart needs distance, but if not on Friday, I'm keeping an eye and putting this horse in my horse to watch list.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment. Colonel John, certainly he was a multi-purpose runner and has been a good turf and synthetic sire, a good turf workout for this horse. Might like to see this one going longer. In addition to Colonel John on top, there's a lot of routability on the bottom of this pedigree.
Trainer Chad Brown has 2 in here. The number 4 is Voting Agreement. We'll take a look at Voting Agreements. Been to the sales twice, $75,000 buyback as a weanling, rock solid $130,000 yearling purchase by More Than Ready, who's consistent year in and year out. The dam was grade 2 stakes placed routing on dirt, and this horse worked on July the 14th with a horse named Situation Room, who finished 4th in the debut on turf with a 63 buyer. I like that Javier Castellano takes the mount. Anything Chad sends out is not a surprise, as we see from this Formulator of Fact over the past few years. Chad, with first-time starters in maiden special turf sprints at Saratoga, wins a third of the time and a 2.5 ROI. Voting Agreement, very interesting for Klaravich Stables.
I think so as well. And, the dam was graded, placed going longer on the dirt. I think you'll have to look to sire More Than Ready, who's a very good turf sire and a very good juvenile sire, to add that turf ability and to sharpen up that family a little bit.
The 5's Our Little Jewel by a nice turf stallion in Hat Trick. This is a live oak plantation homebred. We see that Hat Trick wins 14% with the first turf runners. The 3rd dam here was a stakes winning router, and this is the family of Chocolate Candy, who is a nice graded stakes winning synthetic horse, a horse that could run on turf. Something tells me that maybe this filly might need a race. I'm not sure Michael Trombetta is going to rush this homebred.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to rush this homebred at all. But that being said, has been working well and working on synthetic at Fair Hill. Looks like a nice foundation under her for her first start. Hat Trick, one of the few sons of Sunday Silence available at stud in North America. But, this is another one I might like going longer.
Todd Pletcher has an Irish bred, the number 6 Boston Beauties, who went through the auction ring overseas twice, a $96,000 weanling, a $98,000 yearling, and this is just all turf on the in the family. The 2nd dam, a French Group 1 turf winner, the family of a juvenile Group 1 winning turf winner named Spadoon. June 24th workout on the turf. It was a bullet. It looks like it went in company with Sparkling Sky, who ran 2nd in the debut on turf with a 65 buyer for Todd. Lots of turf. What can you tell the folks at home about Zafani?
Well, Zafani was a very good juvenile in his own right, racing in Europe, and his runners have followed in his form. He definitely imparts some speed and some precocity, which is going to be important for this horse, who really has a lot of route-oriented runners in the female family there. Todd Pletcher has gotten this one out there for a turf work, and I have to think he knows what he has, placing this horse here in a turf sprint as opposed to one of the 2-turn turf maidens that we're going to see coming up here in the condition book.
The other Chad Brown trained runner in this race is the 7 Indochine by a sensational turf stallion, a sensational overall stallion in Warfront. No surprise that this filly sold for $470,000 as a yearling, especially when you see that the dam, a multiple grade 1 stakes placed juvenile, is a half-sister to Bodemeister. Classic placed, grade 1 winner, the 2nd dam, a grade 3 winning dirt sprinter and untouched talent. And if you actually go back in the pedigree a little bit, there is some turf here to match up nicely with that Warfront on top.
Yeah, and Bodemeister has started to sire some decent turf runners as well. I do think it's a turfy pedigree, especially with Warfront on top, a leading international juvenile sire. You see Bodemeister there, and of course, you think of longer distances, a classic place runner who sired Derby winner Always Dreaming in his first crop. But there's so much speed in this family, and the thing about Bodemeister was just that he could take that speed and carry it a distance. I think this one could go longer, but I have to think for Chad Brown and Peter Brandt, this one's going to be well meant in this spot.
And this filly's regular workmate, Sketches of Spain, was placed first via disqualification last weekend in a Salty Spa Baby turf race, earning a 66 buyer speed figure. Moving on to the number 8, Divided Sky. This is another Irish bred that sold at public auction overseas for $56,000 as a yearling, and she's a half-sister to Lady Prancelet, lot, a Grade 3 stakes winning turf router. Let's talk a little bit about Society Rock. A lot of our friends at home might not be familiar with this European stallion, but he has sired some nice 2-year-olds like the Macam Bullet.
Yeah, he has, and the Macam Bullet, that's a horse that we've gotten familiar with here, a well-traveled, very quick runner. Society Rock by Rock of Gibraltar, who was so well-regarded. Society Rock died young. He should impart some miler-type speed into this horse. There's a lot of stamina in the female family, but I don't mind this one going one turn. Especially, he's got a very sharp turf work, July 28th at Saratoga.
The dam is a half-sister to a French Group 2 winning turf router, and that Group 2 winning turf router is the dam of Almanar. We know him. He is a very strong turf force for Chad Brown here in North America. Divided Sky goes out for a very strong first-out trainer in Wesley Ward. Here's the Formulator Fact. Past 2 years, 2-year-old first-time starters, maiden special weight turf sprints at Saratoga. He wins a third of the time with a $3.28 return on investment. We'll move on to the number 9, Raggedy Annie. And Raggedy Annie is the only horse in the body of the race with any kind of prior experience. She made her debut over a sealed, sloppy track in one of those maiden auction races. So to me, she's taking a little bit of a step up into this open maiden race. She gets Lasix for the first time, which is a positive. I'm just not a fan of the Union Rags on turf.
Yeah, I'm not quite so much either, which really surprises me a little bit. Union Rags, who of course was a fine juvenile going one turn himself, I thought he'd be a little bit of a hidden turf sire coming from the same family of Declaration of War and others. But his statistics first-time turf aren't that great. That being said, Raggedy Annie should move forward with some experience, as Wayne Lucas really likes to run his young horses to get them fit.
And completing the field is the number 10, Star Command. And it's so much fun looking at horses from the Phipps operation. This is a daughter of Kentucky Derby winner Orb, who has done pretty well with his turf progeny thus far. The dam was stakes placed on a wet track, but she's a half to Dancing Forever, who is a Grade 1 stakes winner going long on the turf. The second dam, Dancing in My Dreams, had precocity, was Grade 1 placed at 2. This is the family of Heavenly Prized. I see this pedigree. I see that Dylan Davis takes the mount, and I wonder if Shig McGahee just wants to give Star Command a little bit of experience first time out before he really has her cranked tight.
That's typically my experience with these Phipps homebreds going out for Shug McGahee. Those operations, they don't rush these horses at all. Orb is a sneaky good turf sire, with Orvolution and others on his young resume. I'd look for this one to maybe come running a little bit late and watch her for next time.
The 11 through the 15, they are also eligible, so we kick off the late pick 5 with this really intriguing race. Again, we urge the fans at home, take a look at the paddock, take a look at the tote board, see who's taking the early money in this race, often very important. But Nicole, without those tools, who do you like in here?
Well, again, I'm going to advise our listeners really to look at these horses in the paddock. As we said, there are a lot of families in here that, I think we're going to like them going a bit longer. So I think you might want to look at these horses physically and go, gee, which among these is built a little bit like a sprinter type horse, maybe a blockier sort of horse with a bigger engine, a bigger hind quarter, who looks like they'll get away from the gate quickly, as opposed to your leggier route type of horse. That being said, without looking at them physically, I think Indochine might offer a lot of value, especially coming from the Chad Brown barn, the daughter of Warfront, just from such a classy family, and a family that has a lot of speed and some turf ability. I'll take a look at the horses by the European stallions, Divided Sky, and as well as Todd Pletcher's runner by Zophany, and leave you with a smile. Again, Conveyance is a stallion I really like quite a bit, and the Engelhart barn going so well with its 2-year-olds right now. I might take a swing there depending on what the board looks like.
I agree with you on Indochine and leave you with a smile. I want to use both of those in the pick 5. My top 2 selections, however, the 3 Love of My Heart may not have that classic turf sprint pedigree. I just love that workout I saw with March to the Arch. Something tells me this filly can run a little bit. And again, as I said earlier, if not on Friday, down the road. But Love of My Heart, I guess, would be my top selection in here. I want to use the 2 2, She's Into Me by the Spendthrift Stallion Into Mischief. I love this work tab for Jorge Abreu, a good trainer, and then the 1 and the 7. So 3, 2, 1, 7 for me, kicking off the late pick 5 on Friday with our Spa Baby race, and our coverage is presented by Spendthrift Farm.